In this section, we're going to continue looking at looping, but now look at the while loop. The while loop is something we as humans do all the time. We continue doing something until it comes to an end or some other event occurs. We keep working until it's time to go home. We keep drinking coffee until we've run out of it when the cup is empty. We keep breathing. Well, let's not go to that one. Now, let's consider the while loop with Swift. For example, we play a certain game until the score of 10 is reached. So, while the score is less than 10, we continue to keep playing. In Swift, before we start a while loop, we need to check the condition to know if it is true or false, that is, whether we even bother to start the loop or not. After each loop, or iteration if we think back to David talking before about the for-in loop, we check the condition again. If it is still true, we continue to loop. If the condition is no longer true, we don't loop again, and we continue our code after the while loop. So now here's a code example of a while loop, and this is our looping until the score is 10. We can see the output on the right and the Swift code on the left. We have a variable called myScore, which starts with a value of 5. We now commence the while loop with the word while, and then we have an expression that we're checking next to it on the right. In this case, my score is less than 10. If my score is less than 10, that means it is true. We go inside the loop between the curly brackets. In this case, inside the loop, we have a print statement saying, not there yet, go again. But importantly, we then increase the value of my score by 1. Therefore, we've come to the end of the while loop and we go back to the start and check again. Is my score less than 10? Well, it was 5 before, it's now 6. So we go back into the loop, we run it again, it's increased to 7, we've printed out not there yet, go again. We keep doing this and checking each time until we get to a situation where my score is now equal to 10 after a few loops. When that's the case, we've compared my score being equal to 10, which is not less than 10, so we skip the loop and continue to run the code afterwards. In this case, nothing, so we've finished running our code. Now, that's really all there is to while loops. But what about continuing while with a logical operator? So, the condition can have multiple logical operators in it. Here's another example. As we can see here, we have a variable called points with a value of 5 and a variable called number of serves, which is equal to 1, using the assignment operator there. Keep in mind, when we have an AND operator, we need to make sure that both sides of the AND operator are true for the expression as a whole to be true. So in other words, our while loop will not be entered into unless both sides of that AND operator are true. So, the while loop will start while the variable points is less than 50 and the variable number of serves is less than 3, which in this case it is. 5 is less than 50 and 1 is less than 3. Therefore, we enter the loop, we print out saying play on, points equals, and then the number of points. We then multiply the number of points by 2, so we get to 10, and we add 1 to the number of serves. Therefore, we have 2 serves. So, thankfully, we've changed those values within the while loop. If we didn't change those values within the while loop, we might end up looping forever. This is absolutely important when designing loops. In that situation, it's called an infinite loop. Chances are, if you end up in an infinite loop, you'll run out of memory and your app or program will crash. Continuing back, this while loop will continue to run 3 times in total, as after we run it again, we've increased our number of serves from 2 to 3, therefore the number of serves isn't less than 3, so we then don't enter the loop and we continue on with the rest of our program. So we can see here the output would be play on, points equals 5 that first time around, we go around again, we'd increase our number of serves to 2, play on, points equals 10, then because it would be 3, we wouldn't enter the while loop a third time. Once the condition was no longer true, the loop no longer executes. So, now what we've seen is various ways we can use the while loop. And of course, the while loop is a different way to the for-in loop to be able to loop parts of our code. In this case, when we want to see if a condition is true before we either loop it at all, but also whether that condition is true before we exit. We've taken a look at while loops and how they're different to for-in loops. With a while loop, we can test a condition or expression to see whether it is true before we loop code at all, and again to check that expression to see whether we want to repeat or no longer repeat any more code.